If you're eating around 1,500 calories a day, you're trying really hard and the scale still isn't moving, please don't immediately decide that you need to eat even less. Because there are quite a few things I would look at first. I actually see this quite a lot with women I work with. They come to me and say, Joanna, I genuinely don't understand. I'm eating 1,500 calories. I'm walking. I'm trying to make better choices. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. And I've either lost nothing or I've actually gained weight. And I completely understand why that's frustrating. Because when you're already thinking about food, trying to plan meals, saying no to things, sometimes getting your steps in, fitting everything around work, children, family, and then you step on the scales and it's basically like, nope. It can make you think, what is even the point? And often the first thought is, maybe 1,500 calories is too much for me. Maybe I need to go to 1,300 or 1,200, but that's definitely not where I would start. So today I want to show you what I would actually look at if somebody told me I'm eating 1,500 calories and I'm not losing weight. And some of these things might surprise you. If you're new here, I'm Joanna. I'm a nutrition and weight loss coach. I also have a background in psychology. And on this channel, we're looking at weight loss from two sides. What the science says and what actually works when you have a normal, busy, sometimes completely chaotic life. Because something can look absolutely brilliant on paper. But the question I always want to ask is, does it pass the real life test? So first of all, we need to get something really important out of the way. 1,500 calories is not automatically a weight loss number. There isn't one calorie target that makes everybody lose weight. Your energy requirements depend on things like your body size, age, sex, activity levels, body composition, and lots of individual factors. So for one woman, 1,500 calories could create quite a substantial calorie deficit. For another woman, it could be a much smaller deficit. And for somebody else, particularly somebody who is smaller and not very active, it might be fairly close to what they're actually using. That's why when you see something online saying women should eat 1,500 calories to lose weight, that's far too simplistic. The number only means something in relation to your energy expenditure. But let's assume that 1,500 should theoretically put you into deficit. Now things get much more interesting. This is probably one of the most important things I teach my clients. Your scales aren't measuring body fat. They're measuring everything. Your body, water, food sitting in your digestive system, stored carbohydrate, waste, everything. And that means you can be losing some body fat while your body weight temporarily stays exactly the same or even goes up. And this is where people panic. They'll have one morning when they're 76 kilos. Then suddenly they're 77 and they think, oh, I've gained a kilo. But gaining 1 kilogram of body fat overnight would require a very large energy surplus. What's far more likely is that something changed your water weight or the amount of material currently inside your body. So let me give you some examples. You eat a particularly salty meal. Your body may retain more water. You eat more carbohydrates than normal. Your muscles and liver store carbohydrate as glycogen, and glycogen is stored together with water. You started exercising harder. That can temporarily increase water around the muscles while they recover. You haven't been to the toilet. That's quite literally extra weight sitting inside you. So for women, hormonal changes across the menstrual cycle can also cause noticeable fluctuations. Even simply eating later than usual can affect what you see on the scale the next morning. None of those things mean my calorie deficit isn't working. This is why one weigh-in tells me almost nothing. I'm interested in the trend. Imagine this. Monday, you're 75.8. Tuesday, you're 75.5. Wednesday, you're 75.7. Thursday, 76.2. And suddenly you think, brilliant, I've gained nearly half a kilo. But then Friday, you're 75.4. Saturday, 75.2. Sunday, 75.3. If you'd emotionally reacted to Thursday and immediately cut another 300 calories from your diet, you would have changed a plan that might actually have been working perfectly well. Now we need to talk about something a little more uncomfortable. But I don't want you to hear this as you're lying about what you eat, because that's not what I'm saying at all. Humans are actually pretty bad at accurately estimating food intake, and nutrition researchers know this too. Studies comparing self-reported food intake with more objective methods consistently find reporting errors. And this happens without people deliberately doing anything wrong. It's incredibly easy. Actually, this is such a mom thing. Imagine I'm making the children lunch. I cut some cheese, little bit left. I eat it. One of them leaves half a sausage. I finish it because, well, there's half a sausage sitting there. It's small, so I think it may not matter too much. Then I'm making dinner and I taste the sauce twice. Then somebody has 3 chips left on their plate and they're clearing everything away. Somebody's asking you for a drink, somebody else can't find their shoe, and those 3 chips just like disappear. If you asked me later, what did you eat today? Would my brain naturally go, well, 3 chips, half a sausage, little bit of cheese, 2 tastes of sauce? Probably not. Very likely it's not gonna happen. And that's why I really don't like the conversation becoming people aren't losing weight because they're secretly eating too much. That's not helpful. Food tracking is a measurement tool. And like every measurement tool, it has errors. Research on dietary self-reporting has repeatedly found that energy intake can be underestimated. That doesn't mean somebody is dishonest. It means measuring human eating in the real world is difficult. So instead of blaming yourself, become curious and start thinking, am I adding a little bit here and there, which I don't think will matter, but it actually may? If weight loss genuinely hasn't happened over several weeks, this is one area I'd gently investigate. Things like oil poured into the pan, butter, mayonnaise, sauces, milky coffees, alcohol, handful of nuts, children's leftovers, little bites while cooking, weekend meals, portions that have gradually become slightly bigger. None of these foods are bad. That's another thing I really want to emphasize. We're not hunting for naughty foods. We're looking for places where the measurement might not match reality. And all those examples I just mentioned are the real life examples reported by my clients and the stuff I discussed with them, because they just simply didn't realize how much oil you pour into the pan makes a great difference. Another very common one. Somebody might genuinely eat around 1,500 calories on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Then the weekend is much more relaxed for most people. And again, nothing wrong with that. But weight loss responds to the overall energy balance over time, not whether you were brilliant on Tuesday. So let's say somebody eats 1,500 calories for 5 days. That's 7,500. But Saturday and Sunday are both 2,500. Now we're at 12,500 calories across the week. Divide that by 7 and the average is around 1,700 calories per day over that. So that's much more than planned 1,500, and depending on your energy requirements, that could make the deficit considerably smaller. Here's one people often don't notice. When we are eating less, sometimes we naturally become a little less active. Not necessarily our planned exercise. You might still go to the gym, you might still do your walk, but outside of that you sit a bit more. Fidget less. Take fewer little trips around the house. You're tired, so you don't bother going upstairs until you absolutely have to. You park closer, you spend more of the day sitting. The kind of non-exercise movement contributes to total daily energy expenditure. And research into weight loss shows that energy expenditure can change as body weight decreases and during periods of energy restriction. There is also evidence for something called adaptive thermogenesis. So essentially, energy expenditure can fall somewhat beyond what we'd predict simply from having a smaller body. That does not mean my metabolism is broken, and it doesn't break the laws of physics, but it does mean the body is not a completely static calculator. Now let's talk about stress, because online you often hear cortisol is stopping you losing weight. And that's usually far too simplistic. Stress doesn't magically create body fat while you're in genuine sustained calorie deficit, but stress can make weight loss much harder to execute. If you're exhausted, you're hungrier. Food can feel more rewarding. You might move less, you might sleep badly, you have less patience for cooking. And if you've got children shouting "Mom" every 30 seconds while you're trying to make dinner, sometimes you just want whatever is easy. I get it. I get it. That is where psychology and nutrition meet. The calorie deficit still matters, but pretending that the human being trying to create that deficit doesn't matter is ridiculous. This is one of the first questions I'd ask. When somebody says, "My weight isn't moving," I want to know for how long. 4 days? That's not a plateau. A week? Still probably not enough information. If your weight has genuinely shown no downward trend for several weeks, despite reasonably consistent intake and activity, then yes, we may need to investigate. But please don't rewrite your entire diet because the scale didn't reward you this morning. If you're eating around 1,500 calories and you're not seeing weight loss, here's what I do before immediately eating less. First, look at your weight as a trend, not individual numbers. If weighing yourself regularly doesn't negatively affect you, compare weekly averages rather than Monday versus Tuesday. Secondly, look at consistency across the whole week, not just your good days. Third, for perhaps 7 to 14 days, pay a little more attention to the easily forgotten things. Cooking oils, sauces, drinks, tastes, leftovers, portion sizes. Leftovers, I would try to cut them to a minimum. Not forever. This isn't about becoming obsessive. It's basically an audit. Fourth, look at movement. Has your activity changed? Steps, exercise, general daily movement. And fifth, give the process enough time, because fat loss is usually much quieter than water fluctuations. And now we come to my favorite question. Does it pass the real life test? Because yes, theoretically, I could tell you weigh absolutely everything, never eat anything you haven't logged, meal prep 7 days in advance, eat exactly the same calorie number every single day, and carry Tupperware everywhere you go. Would that make tracking more accurate? Probably. Would most busy women with jobs, children, partners, and actual lives want to do that forever? Well, no. And neither would I. So the goal isn't perfect tracking. The goal is creating a system that is accurate enough to guide you, flexible enough to live with, and consistent enough to produce a result. We don't need perfect. We need repeatable. And there is one thing I really don't want you to take away from this video. I don't want you finishing this thinking, right, Joanna says I'm secretly overeating. No. Sometimes the answer is genuinely water retention. Sometimes you haven't given it enough time. Sometimes your calorie needs have changed. Sometimes tracking is slightly off. Sometimes activity has dropped. Sometimes it's a mixture of several tiny things put together. And if there genuinely isn't a downward trend after several weeks, then your plan deserves reviewing. Not punishing, reviewing. And that's a big difference. So if you've been eating 1,500 calories and wondering why nothing is happening, tell me in the comments. How long has the scale actually been stuck? Because I think you'll be surprised how many women are experiencing exactly the same thing. And if you want weight loss advice that includes the science but also has to survive children, work, stress, family dinners, and normal life, subscribe, because that's exactly what we're going to do here.